Good. All right. Thank y'all for being here. I want to start on a somber note, really. On behalf of our entire program, I want to send our thoughts and prayers to the Virginia football team. The Just an unthinkable tragedy, really. I was up late and saw it kind of go against the ticker, and then we lost two players at Troy, and that's the hardest thing. There's nothing that prepares you for that, and I can't imagine in that kind of situation. So, Coach Elliott and that entire team, just want to our thoughts and prayers with them. Also hurting for Shane Lyons and his family. Shane's a strong administrator, but he's even a better guy. He's a good man. I think that's very important to note. And I think people forget that behind titles and decisions, they're real people with real families. And he and his wife, Emily, and their two kids, they served this university, and they served it well. And so just want everybody to know we're thinking about him. And I'm very appreciative for the opportunity that he gave me to come here, and we're going to continue to fight and get better and win as many games as possible and do it the right way, like he would want. And so, but my focus is, and I'm sure y'all are going to ask some questions or whatever, but my focus, we're just trying to get better today and try to go win a game on Saturday versus Kansas State. I want to recap Oklahoma. We won, in case anybody – no, we did win that game, all right? And so we won the game. Greedy, you can get off your phone, pay attention. We won the game, all right? And so in case people forgot. But three-phase win, I talked about it, but just to hit some main points on it again, I thought special teams-wise, we played really sound. And that's a good team that's well coached on special teams. And I thought our kickoff return set up a score before half. And then I thought our punt and kickoff coverage was really good versus good athletes. And then I thought our specialists played really well. Oliver, Parker on the kickoffs. Casey obviously hit the game winner. Brinkman's been really good all year. And then the fake punt helped extend a drive, and that was a scoring drive. That was important. And then offensively, I thought we just grinded out a win. Controlled the clock, was able to run the ball, and got a lot of made first downs. And I think we were 11 and 19 on third and fourth down combined, which is good. Defensively held them to one score, and then minimized their explosives. They hit a couple, but minimized their explosives, and then 1 of 11 on third downs. And so three-phase win. Players of the week, want to hit that. I'll start with special teams. Special teams player had a long kickoff return, executed a fake punt, and I think he's been exceptional at punt coverage at the gunner position. And so Sam James was our special teams player of the week. I also want to note Oliver Straw winning the Big 12 special teams player of the week, and he's played big. I think John asked a question about him maybe last week. He's been really, really good. He averaged 43.8 in the game on Saturday, had 4 punts inside the 20, which was big in a field position game. Our defensive player of the week was Jasir Cox. He had 12 tackles at TFL, had a PBU. He'd been playing Will. We flipped him over. He started at the spear position, and I thought he played really well. Then our offensive player of the week and the Big 12 offensive player of the week, Garrett Green, 138 yards passing, 120 tough rushing yards. A lot of those yards were tough, especially on that last drive, and just played with a lot of fire, a lot of energy. I thought he energized the stadium. I thought he energized our sideline, and just really, really happy for him. He's gotten better and better and better, and he's practiced better, and he's kind of embraced his role. And then when he had an opportunity, man, he made the most out of it. And so credit to him, and excited for him. Our offensive lineman of the week was Wyatt Milam. He graded out 95%, had 3 knockdowns, most production points, and strained. And he's on a path to be a great player, and he's getting better. Got a really bright future. And then we gave out blue collar awards, and we always give out 3 of them. And I'll kind of tell you why we gave one to each, or we don't always give 3, but we always denote people that kind of do the dirty work. And the first one's Traylon Davis. He had his best game as a Mountaineer. Really, anytime you run the ball like that, The tight ends have to play well, and I thought he played his best game. He's physical. He's doing a better job as far as IDing in the pass game and in the run game, who he's got. And then the next guy is Exery Lowe. Exery Lowe played 86 snaps between special teams and defense. That's a lot of football. He starts on 3 special teams units. I thought he played his best game at linebacker, and he played every snap at will. And the other guy is Malachi Ruffin, a former walk-on. He played 89 snaps in the game, 70 on defense and 19 special teams. 89 snaps. And, again, started on all 4 special teams and then played his best game at corner that he's played in his career here. And then Juice Award, I thought the sideline was really good. Sully Weedman, who's a redshirt offensive lineman who's going to be a really good player, and he'll be ready sooner rather than later. And then Ronan Swope. Those guys did a great job on the sideline, kind of leading that group. And then our scout team players of the week, I always like to do it in this setting because it's impossible to get ready to play unless you have a quality scout team. And our scout offensive player was running back Marquand Rucker. He started on 2 special teams the last 2 weeks. He's doing a nice job there as well. Our scout defensive player of the week is safety, who's a freshman who's redshirt, and Keaton Thomas. He's going to be a really good 4-core special teams player for us. Then our scout special teams player is a freshman that's going to redshirt, receiver Tyler Evans, who's from Ohio, who's going to be able to play some football here. And so those are the awards in-house that we give out when we win. Flip the page over to Kansas State, 17th in the country. I've got them a little higher than that in the poll that I turn in for the coaches. Second in our league right now. Extremely well coached. I think Coach Kleiman and his staff do a great job in all 3 phases. Really tough to prepare for in each unit. They play hard. Physicality is what sticks out. When you turn them on, they play physical. And that's across both line of scrimmages. They strike you on defense. They're playing their best football of the year, too. They beat a really good Baylor team on the road, beat them soundly. And so they're going to come here on a high. Talk about them offensively first. They're multiple, balanced. They're playing with some tempo. They're different. They still adjust and motion and shift, but they have tempo elements now. Not sure who will play at quarterback. Martinez plays. He's throwing the ball better, but he's an explosive runner. And then Howard's came in, and he looks to be one of the more improved players this year in our league. He's extremely efficient. He's played in 2 road environments and really played well, and then beat Oklahoma State when they were top 10 in the country and kind of ran them out there. And so I think he's playing very effective, and if he's the starter, I think their team really believes in him. You can tell that. And then Deuce Vaughn, everything they do offensively is centered around Deuce Vaughn. He's special. I can get up here and talk for a long time about him, but he's special. And then they got some game breaker threats, Knowles and Brooks at wideout. And then I think their O-line and tight end collectively are playing the best in our league right now as a group. Defensively, 3 down, 3 safeties. Different than TCU and Iowa State. They're pressuring more, playing a little bit more man covers, but playing at a high level. I think defensively it starts for them up front. Huggins, who's their nose guard. People don't talk about him, but he's playing at a really high level. And then 91, I'm going to make sure, because I want to be nice, I want to make sure I'm pronouncing his name right. Andudike Uzama. Did I get it right, Creedy?
Sounds pretty good.
All right. Number 91. He's a man. He's an issue. A really good story. Walk on. Now he played himself into a first-round draft pick, and we're going to have to account for him. He's elite. And then they're big at linebacker, productive. Secondary-wise, Brent's their corner. He'll be first-team all-league. He's long, 6'4". They're doing a good job mixing up coverages, and playing more man. And then special teams, Zenner does all 3, field goal, punts, kickoffs, really strong leg. And then this is the challenge for special teams-wise is Brooks has already returned a punt for a touchdown as a punt returner. He's one of the better ones in our league. And then Knowles is the best kickoff returner in our league. He's special. He obviously had a big one versus last year. So we're going to have to do a great job in our coverage units. And so wrapping up, looking forward, building off last Saturday's win and huge challenge and last home game of the year. But our guys will be ready to go. So with that, I'll take questions.
So quarterback for you.
Probably won't name one, Greg. I will say this, Garrett earned the opportunity to play more. But we'll get both those guys ready, and we've been getting Nico more snaps too, because he's got some games now because he doesn't have to redshirt, and I'm impressed with how much better he's getting, and so we've been getting him some reps as well. But Garrett earned the opportunity to play more.
You can see throwing Nico in there.
Yeah, potentially. I'm not saying no, and we've been getting him reps because we want to get him ready. But off Garrett's performance, he deserves to play more. But we won't name a starter going in, but he definitely deserves to play more.
I know you always want to get to the next week's game after the initial game, but was it important for this team to have a little bit of chance to celebrate, to get guys named, to these awards after some of the struggles, going through a little bit of a losing streak?
Yeah, without Kevin, I think without question is you got to appreciate when things like the good things. I think it's important. You got to appreciate so much as next. After a loss, you want to get through to the next. But there's a reason why you do all the work. There's a reason why you invest, and you need to celebrate. My assumption, they probably had a pretty good time on Saturday night, and more power to them as long as they did everything legally and they got here and they're rested and ready to go practice on Tuesday, right? And so, but no, it is. It builds goodwill. We always recognize scout team players in our team meetings and stuff, but to do things and give awards after you win, yeah, that's an important piece of program building.
You mentioned focus on the game, Neal. Mm-hmm. How do you make sure what happened with Shane, doesn't become a distraction?
Well, the good thing is like with our players, everything's kind of like that was old news because it happened yesterday. You know what I mean? So like when they're in their seat, the seats that y'all are sitting in, when we come back this afternoon, that's not going to be at the forefront of their mind. And what I've been telling them, and this is kind of the way I live my life, is you got to be where your feet are planted. Be where your feet are. Do the very best you can each and every day, and if you do that over the course of the long term, good things are going to happen. And for us, it's cliche or whatever, but only thing they can control is how they prepare. And if they do what they're supposed to in preparation and practice, then we'll perform well enough, and we'll have an opportunity to get a big win on Saturday.
Have you had any talks with Shane or any?
I talked to him yesterday briefly. I kind of keep those to myself, but yeah, I talked to him yesterday briefly.
How do you handle the dynamic now at quarterback? You got a veteran and a younger guy that's trying to move into that job. How do you handle that?
So good people. I think everybody that's involved are good people, and then you just try to be transparent. I think that's the way you handle it, Bob. Those things are never easy. It's different. Like every position plays multiple people besides that one usually. And so they knew that when they signed up to play that position too, though. But you're transparent with it, and I think they're all good people involved, so they'll however it goes, I think then that they like it, but they'll move forward with it.
I know this is probably a week-to-week thing, and you're not naming a starter right now. Will bowl eligibility play into that at all? Because hypothetically, if you would lose this game, you wouldn't.
I'll be honest, Mike. We're just trying to win, man. Right. Like we get to that number, man. I'm not trying to be funny or anything. I just like.
I just mean because you have a veteran quarterback, there's a difference in age.
Yeah.
You can't make a bowl game mathematically.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not thinking that way right now. Right. Yeah, I'm not thinking that way right now. I'm just trying to give our team the best opportunity to win. What's that look like? Yes, John.
I was going to say, to his point, I don't know if you were aware, but with 2 weeks left, every team in the league is still bowl eligible.
Yeah, I saw that.
I think you run the table, Iowa State runs the table, Texas Tech wins, Oklahoma wins. You have 10 teams with 6 wins.
Yeah.
Makes you knock the microphone off.
I don't know.
So, wow.
Somebody that was on this yesterday is much taller than me, I guess. I don't know. I don't even know who to blame for that. I guess myself. What? All right, I lost track, John. What'd you say, bud? The league, man. Yeah, a friend of mine said this. You're in a tough neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like, you're in a tough neighborhood. You got a bunch of tough guys. But that's so true. This league's, man, it's really good and it's extremely well coached, and I've said this same chair and maybe said it differently, but I've said the same thing a lot of different times. Is everybody can win on every Saturday, regardless of who you play. Like, you can win. All right. The flip side of that is you can also lose. And so, yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I didn't know that, but it doesn't surprise me.
Senior Day, so last home game for that group. Talk about them, and
Yeah.
should we put stock into people? who
No,
walk?
I wouldn't. I wouldn't. Like, it's such a weird time, like, for seniors, right? Because some of them have extra years. So I'll tell you all what I've told them. Like, just walk. Like, Dante's going to walk twice. Has anybody ever done that? I don't know. He's going to walk twice. He's going to get as big applause this year as he did last year. His mom's probably going to be emotional like she was last year. Like, if you don't know, just walk. Just walk. Senior days are some of the toughest time as coaches because you think about it, it's a really emotional time because you're reflective by nature, right? Like, everybody, senior day, like, because it's supposed to be a climax, right? And so you're like, you want to think back, but then you got to go play a football game. That's hard. I think some of these teams, like, one of the things after COVID that's right, I've noticed a lot of this in high schools, they're doing senior night the first game. There might be something to that. Might be something to that. But no, I wouldn't take I've told these guys, nobody needs to make decisions till after the year. And I think that it'd be hypocritical of me to ask them to make decisions when I'm sitting there telling them, hey, be where your feet are, man. Let's get better today. And so that's what I want them to focus on. So if they don't know, just walk and make a decision later.
Update on Woods.
Good.
Any update on Woods?
No. Hopefully it will be by the end of the week, though. Okay.
I was going to say, I look back at a story that came out of one of these meetings 3 years ago when after Sam James had that big day and 233 yards, and you talked about how he has all the attributes, but you coach him harder than anybody else because he can be great. Would you talk a little bit about his progression from there? He didn't quite. Next game he caught one pass for 7 yards, and and now he seems to be maybe realizing that.
Yeah, I haven't even looked to. John may be able to tell me, or Monty, but I don't know where he's at career wise, receptions and those type of things. I would say he's moving up the career list. He's five. There you go, Monty coming through. All right, so he's fifth. So I think that speaks of his longevity and his ability to play. What he's grown into, which I'm really proud of, and this is one of the he's one of our most consistent practice players from an effort production standpoint, and consistency is a trait that I think is one of the highest compliments you can give. And he's grown into a really good football player. And I think I said this after the game, Bob, is his ability on punt coverage. He's the best guy we have at blocking punts, putting pressure on the opposing team's punter, which sometimes doesn't show up in the stat sheet, but it has an effect on the game. He did a nice job in the return game. Struggled early, but did a nice job on Saturday. He's done a good job perimeter blocking. So he's grown into, and he's matured. He's matured off the field too, but he's grown into a really good football player.
Not obviously this week, but coming up the transfer portal deadline. When do you start to handle that? How do you handle that? And how is it different this year?
Well, I think you meet them kind of where they're at. I think it's not something you avoid. I think the new NCAA dead period there. So you play on Saturday, and then you got a dead period, I think, Sunday through Thursday. And so that dead period was put in there to give people opportunity to have discussions. So that's when we're going to use it, is we're going to use that Sunday through Thursday to kind of but you don't avoid it. You don't just assume people are coming back. You kind of meet them where they're at, and you talk about it, and that's how we're going to handle it. I'm not saying that's how everybody's going to handle it. That's how we're going to handle it.
Could you give us your short version on Deuce Vaughn?
So here's he's dynamic as both a receiver and a running back, and so he's really powerful for a guy that size. his lower body, and I don't know, Cody, if you've ever been on the field and seen him, but he's got an extremely strong lower body, which makes him really tough. He's got, you start talking about a strike zone, right? He's got a really narrow strike zone to be able to tackle him. And then if you go really low, he's so strong lower body wise, he can run through tackles. And I don't know him personally, but he must be really smart because they line him up all over the place. And he's an advanced route runner. You know, I always think like Alvin Kamara in the place for the Saints, like he's a really advanced route runner for a running back. Marshall Faulk was a really advanced when, you know, with the Rams, he was a really advanced route runner. And when you watch Deuce Vaughn, like he is really advanced. They put him on some option routes and they find mismatches for him, and he's advanced. Like he knows how to run routes like seasoned receivers, and so he's kind of there. He's how they go, and they find ways of getting the ball. And you know, he's 3 years in a row, I guess. You know, he's going to be right at the top of the rushing charts in our league, and he'll be a first team. So I've got a lot of respect for him as a player.
How much did he hide it?
No, I mean, it's on you if they're hiding him, because you better figure out where he's at. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to move him around for sure. They're going to move him around, and they motion him, and they I don't know if hiding him's the right way. They try to use crossing routes and things like that and then get him out, try to get your eyes, you know, on something else that's coming in front of you. But, I mean, that's got to be priority number one for us, is recognizing where he's at in the formation.
Is he good at getting behind the big tackles and you have to try to find in between?
Oh, yeah, no, yeah. I mean, he's difficult to, you know, he's difficult to locate. And I think he's more difficult to tackle. You know, I just think he's a really difficult tackle. And I was going back watching our game from last year, and, like, he did a couple things, like, where he spun out and, like, almost sat down and then got, I mean, you know, stuff that I'm not saying he's Barry Sanders. I wouldn't put that on anybody, but that's the only other person I've seen do things like that, you know.
Your impressions of Tomas so far?
Yeah, grown, right? You know, coming into the year, you know, we felt like maybe he'd be the 8th, 9th guy. And here he is. He's starting. I don't know how many games in a row it is, but he's you know, defense in our league. We kind of hit a stretch there where we were playing some really good ones, and I think he's done really well, you know. And I think future's really bright for him, and he's getting better too. He's just not like plateauing. He's getting better, and so excited for him.
Had Vaughn's small guy, you mentioned they had like a 6'4" corner, kind of different, right?
Yeah.
Walk-ons, your side, their side, you know, roughing their defensive end, guys who've grown into it. Mm-hmm. As a coach, what's the fun or the challenge of kind of getting away from like labels and stereotypes of too small, too tall, just to walk on, and seeing down the road what someone can come into as opposed to what they're supposed to be?
Yeah, development, right? Which I think there's a trait of that that's getting lost kind of in some of the free agency we have, but like real development still exists. You know, we've got, even going back to Tomas, I think he's an example, even as a young player, as someone that's developed. We talked about Malachi. We talked about, you know, if you look at, they do a really good job of, they've always played good special teams there, going back to Coach Snyder, right, for his whole tenure. And Coach Clemens, and he and his staff, they've continued that. And across the board, now they're and Brooks even maybe, I can't remember. But you look across their special teams, it is really made up of walk-ons. A lot of Kansas-born walk-ons.
Young offensive lineman.
Young offensive lineman, guard, strong, plays with a good base. Hasn't been asked to pass protect much in high school, so still learning that aspect. Similar to Tomas as a redshirt freshman last year, but he's got really good bend. He strikes people, like he has heavy hands when he puts, you know, I think, and that's something that's kind of natural. And he's getting his body, like our development year that he's going through right now is going to be really, really good for him. But I think he's got a chance to be a factor for us next year, kind of like Tomas was.
Those other young linemen too.
Yeah, Mo Hamilton's coming along. He's twitchy, really twitchy. He's got to be more consistent, but he's really twitchy. Charlie is a highly intelligent player, and he's going to be able to play multiple positions. Landon Livingston is going to be a guy that's going to continue to develop as a center. He's probably because he's got to do some growth, but he's smart. He's a technician. Probably needs another year to put on weight and strength, but going to be a good player down the road.
You mentioned going into the Oklahoma game and even after the Oklahoma game that Garrett Green's ability to really maybe have this be a game that he would explode in. I don't know if anyone predicted that, but it would be an opportunity because of the matchup, because of what they do or don't do against the run and all of that. Is there anything about this matchup that maybe lends you, whether it be the QB position or even another position, to think that this could be maybe a breakout performance for this player or this matchup is something that I like, differences of this game?
I can't tell you, Mike, because I'd give no, I don't know. No, I think like the one position that and we're banged up there that didn't play as well as they've played all years at running back for us. And you say that, and we ran for a good amount of yards last week versus Oklahoma, but what I say, 120 of that came from the quarterback position, right? And we've been really good at breaking tackles, and we didn't break very many tackles at running back. Now Tony was coming back off injury, and Justin was banged up, but those are the guys. Like, we need better performances out of them, and that room has been really productive and consistent all year. But that's the room that's we've got to get better at, and we need Jeremiah Aaron and Cortez Braham. We need those. We need to get something. They've been playing. Cortez had a couple critical catches the week before. Jeremiah's had a few as we've gone through the year, but those are two guys I think that we need something. We need to step up, and I think they're capable of this week.
And kind of a follow-up, how would you evaluate the wide receiver play? Because that's been a conversation all season long.
Yeah.
Kind of part of the roller coaster.
Yeah, I thought Bryce played a really good field game. I thought that he made some difficult catches, had some good run after catches on short yardage. Sometimes, we were really using Bryce the other day. It's kind of like you would use a running back, but we were trying to get our outside runs through him on some of those screen passes because we felt like, at his size, he could run through tackles. And so we were using Bryce like that. And I thought Bryce won a bunch. The ball didn't find him, and that's the hard thing. And, I don't know if I do a good enough job of, discussing that in a public forum. But as a receiver, you're totally dependent. You were totally dependent. Think about what has to go right. Well, first of all, the snap's got to be executed, which usually happens, all right? But your O-line's got to protect, all right? Sometimes the running backs or tight ends got to be involved, and then usually at least one other piece of the route concept has to run the route correctly. You have to run the route, and then the quarterback has to throw the ball. You're totally dependent. Other than catching the ball and running your route, you're totally dependent on the other people. And so, Bryce is a great example. His stats won't blow you away the other day, but he played a really good football game. And he really had one 50-50 ball that he could have made, but then he made a hell of a catch on the touchdown on the goal line, right? And so I thought he played well. Sam James I thought that was the play that really got us going. If he caught the inside fade there down their sideline, I thought that was huge. Reese has played well for us. The ball didn't find him for whatever reason last week as much. But I thought it was a really solid performance. And if you go back and you think about the game, we asked a lot of them. We moved and motioned and adjusted and shifted a ton, and that's harder on the receivers than anybody else. And so I thought they executed that. And part of the reason we did that is because we wanted the safeties and the linebackers to play less downhill. And so we put more stuff on them from a memorization, and I thought they handled that well and did it unselfishly as well.
On this.
What could you take from that going with 2 games left and a chance to get to
Yeah.
500?
Not a ton, other than here's what we talk about in November: just finishing, and it's never too late. So just finish. I think it's important life lesson: finish what you start, and you finish. But our teams did that at the end of the year at Troy too. For whatever reason, we played well down the stretch, and that's the expectation here. We're going to play well. We're going to get our guys a plan. They're going to come out. We're going to strain. We're going to execute and give our guys a chance to win on Saturday versus a really good opponent. But that's not something that I'll talk to our team about. Hey, we finished strong last year, because again, that's too far in the rear view for them. It's about I'm trying to stay day to day with this crew. Let's get them motivated, and let's get ready to play.
On the subject of breaking tackles, Garrett isn't going to run over anybody, but he broke a ton, critical situations. Mm-hmm. What makes him difficult to tackle?
Well, he's strong. He's not real tall, but he's put together. He's got a really. It's not Deuce Vaughn's lower body, but he's got a strong lower body, and he did 2 cycles in our developmental program as far as in the weight room, and Mike and his staff did a nice job. So he is strong, and he's fast. Like, he is legit fast. Now, when he comes in here and he asks, don't say that I say that, because we always, like the quarterbacks, like we always have a little with the GPS tracker, but he is legit fast, and he wasn't coming out of high school. Like, he was a good runner. He's one of the few rare people that has got significantly faster in college. And I'm not going to tell you what his 40 time is when he came to our camp, but it was good. It was good. But it wasn't anywhere near what he's running now with his GPS unit. And I think that's a credit to him first and foremost for how he's worked, and then with Mike and his staff too. But he's legitimate fast, and he's got a strong lower body. Okay, thank you all.